everyone in Bobcat land. My name is Karina Beck, as Anders said, and I serve as the director of the Alan Yarnell Center for Student Success. Before we get started, I hope you're feeling this at home, but we have an amazing team here at MSU. And I really want to thank Anders for his leadership and hard work to bring orientation to this level, for you to be able to be connected with us here at Montana State University from right home in your living room. I also want to thank two important people that have really brought the technology together, Max and Jonathan, who are leaders here at MSU in many ways, but who really stepped up to the plate to think about how are they going to solve this problem to make sure that we're able to connect you to an important orientation experience. There's a lot of team members behind the scenes, but acknowledgement and thanks to all three of you. Okay, let's get going. Let's talk about becoming a Bobcat and that important rite of passage that you're about to go through. And really what we're saying to you is we want you to think about how you're going to make the transition to Montana State University. My research background and my interests are how do members socialize and become part of an organization? How do they develop a sense of belonging? How do they create a sense of affinity and momentum? And how do they learn the ropes? And so we're going to talk about that today. Today's conversation is also very interesting because we're going to talk about how we do that in a COVID environment, right? And so this is going to be the one part of the conversation that will be a little different from a normal orientation presentation. And that is a few things that we want you to know here at Montana State University. The first is, as you're making this transition during this COVID-19 era, we want you to know we're fully committed to your success. There are people working morning, noon, and night who care nothing more than making sure you feel welcome and supported as a new Bobcat. It's really important that you know that. The second thing that we want you to know is that we are very committed to reducing your risk here at MSU. So there's teams that are assembled that are really connected and thinking about how are we going to make sure we reduce risk. We're also, and I can say this for the team that I work with, we're very committed to creating your college experience on campus here at Montana State University in Bozeman. It's really important, okay? We're really committed to making sure that you have this sense of belonging in this physical environment. And finally, on top of that, we want you to understand that we're very committed to understanding your questions, answering your questions, and listening to you. We think those four pillars of making this transition during the COVID-19 environment are going to make sure that we're working together, we're talking together, and we're building your college experience together. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, let's go on and visit about how you're going to make this transition. Most of you that are listening in tonight are thinking about how are you making the transition moving from high school to college. There might be a few of you that are thinking about how are you doing this from your previous life. But regardless, this is what we want you to know. And I love this slide, and I'll read the caption to you because I think it's critical. The caption reads, "So what makes you think you'll fit in?" And when you look at this image, you get the sense that everybody looks the same, sort of is walking the same, might be behaving the same, and that's what makes that particular organization's culture. Here at Montana State University, I can tell you it's completely different. What we want you to do is bring your best ideas, bring your aspirations, bring who you are here. We are better because we're different, okay? And that's a really important takeaway as you think about making this transition. Be who you are and discover who you are. And from there, the magic begins to happen, okay? So let's go on and talk a little bit about what we're going to discuss tonight. We will specifically talk about making the transition to Montana State University. We're going to talk a little bit about some student success efforts at MSU, particularly from the Alan Yarnell Center for Student Success and the work that we do there to support your success. We have three offices in particular that we're going to focus on: Office of Student Success, Career Internship and Student Employment Services, and the Office of Financial Education. Okay. We're going to give you some tips for transition. We will do a question and answer. And finally, we're going to make sure that we end right on time so you can enjoy the college presentations that will follow. Okay. We think a lot about shaping models to gain context, right? So there is an expression of the map and the territory. We view maps as being models that give you ideas, that give you context, that give you a sense of perspective. The territory, of course, is here on campus at Montana State University. And so the models that I'm going to present to you, I hope today will give you some important context to think about how you're going to make that transition. For those of you, and I know every student did, that joined for my presentation for making that transition as a student and thinking about how to become a Bobcat as a student, you're going to see one repeated model. But I'm going to share some new information for you tonight, okay? So that first thing that we want to introduce is building a frame of reference or making a transition. And most people think, most new college students think that, well, my frame of reference is that I'm a university student. And that's absolutely true. You will be a university student at MSU. But we want to add another leg to the stool on that, so to speak. What we want you to think about is that you are also a citizen of the MSU academic community. We want you to engage with your faculty. We want you to learn from the best who have chosen to come to Montana State University because of this beautiful place that we live in and the minds that surround this place, right? Our faculty who've committed their lives to scholarship, to teaching, to really building the next generation through critical thinking and developing new knowledge. That means that you are not just a Montana State University student, but you are also a citizen of this academic community. And when you're a citizen, that means we have expectations of you, that you're going to engage, you're going to learn, you're going to stretch yourself, you're going to participate, and you're going to give back, okay? Onward, we think that you very much want to be an engaged Bobcat. That's a terrific part of being in a residential environment where you can engage and participate and have the full college experience. And of course, you're going to do that. And finally, many of you are thinking about what's next. I'm going to decide on my major, I'm going to college because it's an investment, and I want to develop my career plans and beyond. And we have a team of people that are here to support you with that and have you think not just about a job, but your career. How are you going to give back to your community? Where are you going to live? How are you going to recreate and find a full balance of life? And those are things that we're going to visit with you about when you come to Montana State University, and we look forward to working with you on that. There's another thing that I want to sort of give you a sense of as we're shaping this contextual framework for yourselves is what does higher education do? What does it help shape? To us, it helps shape critical thinking, new knowledge, and networks. And we like to introduce this through this context of a metacube. We teach this in some of our classes, okay? Many of us were taught that there's an X and a Y axis, right? You look at a problem and there's the X axis, and then there's a Y axis. And we begin to introduce what we would describe as obvious things or attributes. So maybe you go to college, you earn a job. You go to college, this might be how much you earn. A lot of people tend to see the world through those axes. But what we want to introduce to you is this idea of a metacube, right? The idea of a metacube. The idea of a metacube is that it reveals more dimensions, it reveals more context. We think that's really important. So you might go to college to get a job. So college, job, but let's put some background behind it. In this case, that axis would describe your interaction with your faculty. That you talk to your faculty, you connect with your faculty. And because you've done that, you become excited about a certain discipline, right? A certain major or a certain discipline. And because you've done that, you begin to do some undergraduate research. And because you've done that, you begin to think about joining a club or an organization of like-minded people in that disciplinary experience. Because you've done that, you've developed a broader network. And that network has taught you that you will want to apply for internships. And they might even introduce you to some employers. And after that, because you've done that, you have your first internship, you've developed a mentor in an organization, and away you go, okay? The point behind this is you can have, and you will have, numerous Y and X axes. But what we want you to do is to push further, push farther, to develop more dimensions, and the picture will become fuller. When you do that, you have reaped the full power of a higher education. Okay, next model for you. Let's talk about ICAP. We care a lot about motivating mindsets in the Allen Yarnell Center for Student Success. And we think there's a pretty simple formula to doing this, okay? The first thing that we want you thinking about is gaining information. A lot of the Medicube that I described was really built on gaining information. But we don't want you to just stop at information. Many people do in the world today. We want you to take it further. How about some knowledge? Turn that information into knowledge, self-knowledge, okay? Knowledge about you, knowledge about certain contexts or experiences. From there, you'll begin to build action, right? You'll take action. You'll start doing things. That's what we call a motivating mindset. And from there, there might be some behavior change. You might find that you like studying more in groups than you do in an individual environment. And from there, as we talk about ICAP, or now ICABA, you will begin to assess what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what do you like, what you don't like. And from there, you begin to refine. And that makes the whole model easier to hit, replay and do it again. Then you develop more information, more self-knowledge. You take new steps, you make new choices, and you have new experiences because you've done some new behaviors or had those additional experiences. So that's our ICABA model, okay. I've introduced those three models because when you have a sense of context and when you do employ models, it makes making the transition much easier. It would be like hiking without knowing where the trail leads. It would be like hiking without having a map. But when you have that map, when you have that context, it makes the journey more fun, it makes it more relevant, it makes it less scary, and it gives you a sense of where you're going to go, where you're going to end up, okay? So that's why we think making a transition mindfully matters. And so now many of you might be thinking this idea, well, these are great models. Hope you're thinking that at home. These are great models, but I don't know how to do this. I don't know where to begin. And that's what we're going to talk about next. And the idea is that you are going to be new to us as a new Bobcat, and we're going to take good care of you, but we're also going to work with you so you move over here and you become what we describe as an insider, right? Somebody who knows the ropes. So let's talk a little bit about that. I'd like you to meet Alicia. We wish you could meet students here on campus right now, but we're bringing some home to you. And so Alicia says, I was shocked at how cool and comfortable everyone seemed to be. Well, I was freaking out, right? Making that transition to school. There's a lot of stuff to learn. But what Alicia reminds you is, in reality, most students are scared when they get to campus. In fact, some just hide it better than others. So it's okay to have those butterflies. You've heard that before, but it's true. It is okay to have those butterflies. And in fact, we often say, let that propel you. When you feel that, let that propel you and have you build your momentum forward, okay? So with that, we want you to know it is very typical that new students are going to have to come to understand and know new rules, new role, new culture, new classroom, new food, new friends, new parking, everything is new, 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 new. The good news for those of you sitting at home is for those of us here at MSU who are figuring out how to launch this fall semester in a COVID-19 environment, some things are new to us too. So we can empathize with you. We can feel it with you. But what we want you to know at home is new students will initially spend more time figuring out how to be a student than in some cases being a student. I'm sharing this with you because it's important. You're going to need to reserve a lot of energy for how to be a student. Make sure you do that. Lots of sleep, hydrate, eat well, work out, take care of yourself, find ways to find balance. Because if you don't do that, it will take more time for you over the long term to figure out how to be a student, okay? And how to actually employ being a student. Okay. I'm going to contrast that with insiders. This is really important because most of you at home were deep insiders in your high school or wherever you're coming to us from, your place of work. Or if you took a gap year, you sort of had a sense of the ropes, okay? So insiders tend to understand that they learned the ropes, okay? They have learned the ropes. In some cases, they've created new ropes for people to learn, right? They understand, quote unquote, the rules of engagement. Notice these quotation marks. This is how people describe being an insider. I know the ropes. I understand the rules of engagement. I'm very settled. I know my role. I feel at home. I have a connection. I know what's going on. Like, I don't need to stop and decode things. I don't need to put energy to decoding things. In this case, when you are an insider, you will spend more time being a student than figuring out how to be a student. That's normal too, okay? So what we're trying to share with you is you're going to have to learn, okay? And the idea here is that most of us were taught this is a classic learning curve. You work really hard, right? You're working really hard. Let's use the example of a bike again. You know, you've got your training wheels, you have your bike, you have your helmet, you're learning how to pedal and keep your balance, and then your parents give you a bit of a push off of the driveway into the street. There's that gravel in the road. There's the dog barking from the neighbor. You're learning how to navigate it. Pretty soon you're almost at the top of the learning curve. You're cresting. Suddenly you're maybe not wearing a helmet. Don't do that. You might be texting while you're cycling. Don't do that, right? You might not have your hands on the handlebars. Don't do that. You might not even have your feet on the pedals. Please don't do that. But the idea is you are beginning to slope downward. You're not having to think consciously about learning. That's what we were taught. Most of us believe that. In fact, dear Bobcats at home, what we know is that's actually the learning curve of a psychologist's experiment, Edward Thorndike, for hungry cats in a box who had to learn how to pull a lever to find the food, to open the lever, to open the trap door so they could access food. And that was the learning curve for the number of trials it took for that cat to figure it out. We're much smarter than that as humans, and we're much more complex. So this is our learning curve, generally speaking, as humans, or perhaps for you as a student. Notice that it's sloping upward and not downward. Okay? So in this context, what we're suggesting is this is how you're going to learn how to be a student over time. Not sloping downward, sloping upward. And the important part here is that you will have some steep climbs, and then you'll plateau, a little bit more steep climbing, a little bit more plateauing, all the way through graduation. But this is the important part. This is what we want from humans. This is what we want from higher education. We want to slope upward. We don't want to coast, right? And what we want to make sure we're paying attention to is this idea of we want you to rise to the occasion and really make sure that you don't have that gap, right? That gap, okay? We want to make sure that you don't have that gap. So let's keep going a little bit more. Bottom line. It will take a lot of energy and effort to learn your role in how to shape your signature experience. And that's very normal. Okay, so as a new college student, there are 3 things that we think you're going to go through, okay? There are 3 things that we think you're going to go through. There's actually a lot of good literature about this, and a lot of good research about some experiences that you might be feeling. And the first one is surprise. So there are often new things in a college environment that will surprise you, okay? And so my dear friend, Anders, has agreed to be you at home. We want to try to make this so we're talking together. So Anders, can you tell us what you've heard from parents or students that surprise them when they come to campus or they come to orientation?
Absolutely. I think what's sort of fun about this is that over the years, some of the things that we take a lot of pride in at our university are the things that initially catch both students and parent and family members off guard. And so one thing that we have heard is, I'm surprised at how beautiful this campus is. We visited during one part of the year, and when we came back, it was completely different.
Yep. We hear that a lot, right? We hear that a lot. And so if you were here for orientation, by the way, for first orientation, the weather is usually a little colder. We did not disappoint for you this year. It is a little colder here in Bozeman. But when you arrive, you're surprised at how green the campus is, how beautiful the mountains are because there's still snow on top. And it really just sort of puts you in a different place. That's an example of surprise. And you'll feel that when you come to campus in the fall. Give us another one.
How about surprised, I have to pay for parking?
Yes, right? Most of us didn't have to pay for parking when we were in high school. And yes, you do have to pay for parking here. It might be a surprise, but there's reasons for that. We have really good parking, right? We maintain our parking lots. They're well lit. They're plowed with all that snow that's here for many months out of the year. And those sorts of things are part of being a member of this academic community.
One that kind of builds upon that, surprise, the residence hall that I live in is as big as my hometown.
Ding, 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 right? Like we hear that a lot. I can't believe how many people live on my floor. Or I can't believe what it's like to have a roommate in my room, right? We hear that. And so as you're making that transition, it's important for you to understand and balance that surprise, okay? And that's why we're having this conversation with you. When you know this stuff, it becomes easier. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do one more, Anders. How about role shock? That idea of, I was a high school student and now I'm a university student. And some of this stuff just isn't computing in the same way. Anything that you've heard from parents or students there?
I think this really does speak to the transition that students go through, that role shock of when you're in high school, you start to fall behind in a class. Most likely, your teachers are going to follow up with you. At the university level,
they don't, right? Well, when I say they don't, it's different. It's different. You're not going to have the red alert. What you will have is the faculty member won't notice that you're at class. And they might reach out to you via D2L, via your email. And you're going to have to log in to know that faculty member connected with you. That's just different, right? It's different. We care about you, we're watching for you, but it's a different way of doing it than in high school.
Very connected, and this is speaking to the parent and family members out there. The role shock of, I emailed one of my students' professors asking to know how they were doing in that class, and I got sort of a brick wall.
Right, because we care very much about student privacy. We care about this idea that students are learning and growing and adulting here. And so faculty won't be able to email parents back, right? Now, if you have a concern about the health or well-being of your student, we want you to reach out to the Dean of Students' office. FERPA does not prevent us from listening, know that. But the channels are different now. The contact points are different now. That's an example of role shock. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have another one?
Yeah, I think this is a really important one to spend some time focusing on. The role shock of going from a structured environment to one that you have a lot of independence, and with that also comes a lot of your own personal responsibilities.
Ding, 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 ding. Good one. Very important, right? That idea of if you're taking 15 units, you will be scheduled for roughly 15, maybe up to 20 hours a week, depending on the type of courses you have. Outside of that, you have to be very motivated, which is why we talk about motivating mindsets. So less structure, more expectation as a university student. Fair?
You got it.
Thank you, Anders, very much. We'll see you in a bit. Okay, last one I want to leave you with, and I learned this from a parent. This is really important. For students and parents, everyone is processing this transition. It's a big transition. And for parents, you are the one constant for your student. You raise them, you know them, you care about your student, just like we're going to care about them too. But you know when they're just not right or when it's just awesome. You can read that. You can read between the lines. And so when you're hearing that retrospective interpretation, just make note of it. And students, when you're feeling that too, when you're feeling yourself sort of reflect on the past, or you're using your past experiences to try to make sense of something today, let that power you, okay? Let that power you. That is your brain telling you, you are mindfully making this transition, and it might be an opportunity for you to slow down and reflect, or maybe to speed up and catch up if appropriate. Okay, so a parent once told me a story about their daughter who came to school here. And the daughter said to the mom, you know, they were just talking, well, it was about 6 or 7 weeks in, and the daughter said to the mom, Mom, do you remember that soup that you used to make me? And the mom's like, I don't know. Yeah, you know, what soup? The daughter said, you know, that soup with the curly noodles? And the mom said, ramen, honey. And the daughter said, yeah. And then there was a pause, and the daughter said, "Mom, you used to make that soup for me when we needed to talk because you wouldn't spend time making dinner." And Mom was like, "I got it. I need to listen to you. I need to pay attention to what you're needing and what you're feeling right now." Those moments of retrospective interpretation are really important for us as humans to make the transition. So honor them, know them when they come about, spend time on them, and then it makes the transition easier. Okay. So those are some thoughts as a new college student. Let's do a few more words of wisdom, okay? So meet Ricky rather. Ricky wants to remind you that she would not have let some of her more difficult classes discourage me during my first semester. I would have been way more proactive. I would have met with my professors concerning my grades way before finals week. There's all of what we just talked about packed in there. Surprise, retrospective, interpretation, and some role shock. So do things sooner, motivate your mindset as soon as you can, and leverage some people around you to help you with that, okay? So let's talk a little bit about accelerating the process of being an insider. Normally what we would do is ask you for what you would like to learn with these logos. What I am gonna ask in the interest of time is that you just take a photograph of them. And if you would like to know more about any of these logos, just chat with the admissions counselors, and they can give you a sense of what those logos are. And if they can't answer those questions, they're going to forward them to me, and tomorrow morning, either myself or members of our team are going to reach back out to you and let you know what these logos mean. But these are some of the services that we provide specifically in the Office of Student Success. So take a picture if you want to. And then I'm going to transition to the next one, which is some logos from Career, Internship, and Student Employment Services. Again, things that we do specifically for students to make sure that they're successful, both in the classroom but also outside of the classroom as you're thinking about that fourth leg of the stool, or career development, okay? And then finally, show me the money. Let's look at the Office of Financial Education. This office is set up specifically to help students navigate how to pay for school, how to develop saving habits, how to develop budgeting habits, how really to think about how to best manage money so it is an instrument of success and not really, that sense of worry or liability, okay? So we've got an excellent team there that's very focused on your success relative to your financial health. So feel free to take a picture of anything on there, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Okay, it's my understanding we just have a few more minutes left. Is that true? All right, we have 3 minutes left. So this is what I want to share with you as we talk about accelerating the process of becoming a Bobcat. Commit and own your new learning curve. You're going to have a big learning curve, commit and own it. Don't do college alone. This is a team sport. You're going to hear a lot about this from your colleges in just a few minutes, right? Engage in reinforcing student success practices. Go to class, read your syllabus, talk to faculty, use those help centers and tutoring. Learn from all the professionals that we have here at MSU. And engage. Work with other students, student leaders, student peers, your RAs, etc. Our students here lead, and we're gonna need you to lead in just a year or so, okay? Let's talk a little bit more about accelerating the process. Take that balanced course load. Be willing to communicate when you need help and assistance. We do great things here at MSU. The one thing that we haven't quite perfected is reading minds. Let us know when we can help, and we will help you. To that end, be mentally prepared to enjoy your learning curve. That means every now and then you're going to have to lean on your plan B. Do that. Work hard to develop the fullest picture possible. Begin using that MetaCube, okay? We can help you with that. Seek information to turn knowledge into action, and then reflect on what you've learned. And accept that this isn't a continuation of high school. You are a member of this academic community, Bobcats. Okay. And for why are you doing this? You take steps to broaden yourself in ways you never thought possible. Making the transition is worth it. You will be prepared for that next round of change in your life. Trust me, as you move on into the world of work, there's going to be more change, and that's a good thing. This is important. You become part of MSU. You contribute back to MSU, And this is so important, Bobcats. MSU would not be the same without you. We need you here. Believe me, I think we're all feeling this right now. The world needs you, and we need you to learn how to solve problems, to create thoughtful and inclusive solutions. Okay, so we're near the end here. Parents, just very quickly, what can you do? Keep being their parent. Listen actively, right? Encourage your students to find that right balance between all those legs of the stool. If your student has a rough patch, encourage them to reach out to us. Have them talk to us. We will work with them, right? All of us here at MSU. And if you have concerns, remember, FERPA does not prevent us from listening to you. And I'm going to leave you with this slide because it's one of my favorites, and I think it's very appropriate at this time. Kobe reminds you, don't procrastinate. Your life is only as meaningful as the chances you take through it. Really and truly, Bobcats, now is the time to put yourself out there. Take risks, seek rewards, and reap the benefits of your education. Your mind is the key to your destiny. Develop it. Thank you all for the opportunity to visit with you this evening. We will look forward to taking any of your questions. And now I'm going to pass you back to Anders. Thank you, Anders.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. That was wonderful.
Pleasure.
As we mentioned, we do have some time for a Q&A, and we've been kind of sifting through the questions that have been entered into the chat throughout the evening. And Karina, I wonder, actually, looking at some of these, and I really do identify with some of these questions, I wonder if you might be able to go back and spend some time with those logo slides.
Sure.
Because just looking at some of these questions, I know about the services that your office has to offer. So this one really, I specifically identified with. I felt pressured to declare a major, so I chose one that I think I'm going to enjoy. I have no idea what kind of jobs it can lead to. How do I find out more about employment opportunities for my chosen field?
Whoa, we love that question. I mean that because there's so much there to unpack, right? And so what we would like students to really do is to think about how are they going to design their life. What major might they like? Okay, well, let's talk to your academic advisor. Let's also talk to a career coach. Let's check your interests, your values, etc. From there, we want you to base decisions on information. That goes back to that ICAP model. Let's get good information. And so we will share both our, and I'm looking for it right here, our career destination summary survey data to give a sense of what past Bobcats have done, now alumni, where they're working, how much they're earning, where they're living. We have a great alumni network where you can talk to fellow Bobcats who have graduated to get a sense of what might be possible. And then, of course, we really want to triangulate that with some important Bureau Labor Statistics data. And our career coaches specifically can work with students to really begin to get a sense of how to make decisions based on good data and good information.
Fabulous, fabulous. Let's see, what kind of resources are available on campus if I need to track down help in a class that I'm registered for?
Okay, so the question about help in a class is really important. The first thing that I would say is connect with a faculty member. That's really critical. It might feel a little scary, but they post office hours for a reason. They want to talk to you, right? And so make sure you're reaching out. Send an email, stay after class, sit in the front row, connect with that faculty member, first and foremost. Then on top of that, and I'll go over here, let's go back. We have programs that include tutoring, Smarty Cats tutoring, okay? Where for just $2 an hour, you can have one-on-one tutoring. $2, 1 hour, one-on-one tutoring with a trained peer mentor tutor. They're excellent. We also have several help centers on campus, the Math Center, the Writing Center, the Bracken Business Center. It goes on and on and on. We've got a lot of help centers on campus. And so there is this web of support to help students be successful in their classes. Now, if it's not the material, but it's trying to figure out how to learn, oftentimes those two are two very different things. Then we have learning strategists in the Allen Yarnell Center for Student Success. Specifically, Dr. Amy Lincoln, and she did a presentation during orientation that's recorded and is in D2L, right? And so that idea of we can help you decode how to learning at a college or a university level. We hear from many students that has been incredibly valuable to really unleashing habits and mindsets for connecting with learning with the complexity that happens at a university. Okay.
Fabulous. This is one that's important for all of us, even those of us who are still on campus currently. I've never learned in an online environment before. Do you have any resources or tips for online classes? And in parentheses, they said time management, study tips, staying engaged, etc.
We do. And we're learning about this too more, right? We're all learning about this. And we do. It goes back to some of the work we're doing in the Allen Yarnell Center for Student Success. We have learning clinics specifically designed for this. And we break this down in a few ways. Is it the complexity of the material? Well, then we'll help you with sort of those questions. How to learn the complexity of the material in an online environment. But it might also be the choices that we make. As humans, we're faced with multiple different types of choices every day. And some choices can prioritize. In an online environment, sometimes our choices make us feel like learning online isn't as immediate or as important. How do we structure that? Another area that we focus on is habits of mind. How can your habit of mind, how do you learn and how can you cultivate a habit of mind that's more aligned with an online learning environment than an in-class learning environment? So we're happy to work with students on that.
Fabulous. This is one that I'm sure a lot of folks can identify with as well. I'm going to be paying for school all on my own. I'm wondering what kind of on-campus employment opportunities there are and where can I find more information about what those opportunities are?
Super. As Bobcats, we like to hire Bobcats. And so we have a software program, an online program called hireabobcat.com. And once you complete orientation, we'll load you into the system. You can look at campus jobs on hireabobcat.com. If you have any questions about getting into that system, call 406-994-ROAR, R-O-A-R, 406-994-7627. And we'll help students get into that system. They can visit with a career coach to help with some job searching, but it's great to begin doing that now. And then you know you have a job, you know you sort of have another home on campus. And we love hiring Bobcats. We love hiring new Bobcats.
This follow-up question is very closely related. Am I allowed to get an internship during my freshman year?
Ooh, what a good question. Whoever you are at home, we love that motivating mindset. Let's start with a conversation with a career coach. And what that career coach will do is sort of develop a sense with you of where your strengths are, where your capabilities are, where your experiences are. If all of those align, it is possible for you to develop an internship opportunity with an employer. If you don't quite yet have that, going back to on-campus employment, that's a great way for you to develop some of those experiences to then apply for an internship. But if I can just add to that, we want every Bobcat to do at least one internship experience while they're on campus. At least one, right? Either here on campus or with an employer out yonder. And we also really want every Bobcat to do an undergraduate research experience. When you have both of those, and you think about that MetaCube, those dimensions just open up for you. And the picture becomes fuller as to why you're investing in a college degree.
Fabulous. I had another one that just came in regarding on-campus employment. What's the earliest that a student can apply for on-campus jobs?
Wow. As soon as we have your credential to log in to hire a Bobcat, you can begin looking, you can begin applying. Again, set up an appointment with a career coach. It's all free to you. These are professionals who are happy to help you. And they'll help you navigate how to log in to hire Bobcat and how to apply, how to, in some cases, maybe how to sell yourself and how to make that connection with an employer so they can see your gifts and your talents.
Beautiful. Here's one that hit home with me. I'm terrible at saving money. What are the resources on campus that can help me change that so I can save more money?
Wow, that's a great question, isn't it?
I'm actually interested in the answer, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm happy to share, right? And in truth, most Americans, it's hard to save money. And so you've heard me say a number of times tonight, that habit of mind. And so when you meet with a financial coach now, our financial coaches will give you a sense of how to plan a budget and how to make choices. It's about choices. Saving money is about choices. How to save money through your choices that help you develop that habit of mind and that propels you forward. Once you begin to develop that habit of mind, and if any of you out in Bobcat land have heard from or listened to Warren Buffett, right? He started doing this at a very young age. He started saving money and working hard at a very young age. He developed that habit of mind and practice, and boom, right? Yeah. So it starts with starting. And one great way to start is with a financial coach.
Beautiful. We just have a couple more that just came in. This one is great. I've always struggled with drive and motivation academically. I'm worrying that I'm going to fall behind in college right away. What can I do to make sure that I don't?
Great question. Okay, so this is something that we love to work with you on the Office of Student Success side of the house, and that is what we describe as your executive functioning. That does tie into choice architecture, the choices that we make, the decisions that we make, but it also ties into setting yourself up well with the peers that you surround yourself with. Who are other people around you that have that same habit of mind that don't want to get behind in school? And then write to yourself, right? And we'll work with you on this. Points of responsibility, okay? So just something very simple that you might say, after every class, I'm going to immediately review my material, immediately. So that hour after my class, I'm not gonna go, do social media, I'm not gonna go hang out, I'm going to review my notes. If you get into that habit, you begin to develop that. You won't fall behind if you do that. How do you make sure, another tactic for that is to read your syllabus and make sure every due date, every point of responsibility you have, you're recording in your time management planner. For myself, I still like to do that by writing in hand. That's just me. Other people like, more of a digital version. Whatever your style is, if you keep up that habit, it will make a difference. If you meet your deadlines, you review after class, and then very importantly, you review, or what we describe as preview, before class. What do you think that professor is going to talk about? What do you think that you should know? And maybe how can you do some self-quizzing that will put you in that mindset before class, right? We want you to be in that mindset before class. That makes the classroom experience richer.
Beautiful.
Okay.
The last one is just a question of my own. Throughout the evening, you've talked a lot about where to find you in our current environment. Websites, phone numbers, email addresses. As Bobcats, we're always looking towards the future. We are looking forward to that day that we're going to welcome all of our students to campus physically. Where are you? Where can we find you?
That's a great question. We are located right in this building. We're in the Student Union building right now, or what we love to say is the sub. And we're in the basement of the sub. So we're right across from the bowling alley. We're easy to find. We're very accessible. Our phone number again is area code 406-994-ROAR 7627. My email address is cbeck, C-B-E-C-K, @montana.edu. Our webpage is, you can just search it on the MSU webpage, but we're very accessible. We love to interact, and we want you to know that every question is cherished. We're lonely right now. We want to talk to people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Many of you heard me say earlier in the webinar series, we're looking forward to getting back to handshakes and smiles and interacting with you interpersonally. We do appreciate the engagement that you've showed us throughout this online orientation experience. I appreciate your time this evening,
Pleasure.
Karina, I really do.